As the Indian variant of coronavirus spreads around the UK, what could students do to keep themselves safe? Our reporter Olivia Lawler McDonald catches up with Harry Gratian to talk about life after the BBC. And a York mom is campaigning to make people more aware of a rare genetic disorder called MPS. Welcome back to Yorkie Today. I'm Jason Whiting. Over 50s are being urged to book their second vaccine as more cases of the Indian variant are confirmed in York. Only a few cases of the variant have been found so far, but what does this mean for those aged 18 to 39, including students? Olivia Wilson reports.
As of yesterday, there have been 31 confirmed cases of the Indian variant of coronavirus in Yorkshire. The number of cases in York are low, but it's enough to cause concern among citizens, who are only just being allowed more freedom under the latest easing of coronavirus restrictions.
I am a bit worried because obviously I'm not expecting life to go back to normal. I am expecting maybe another lockdown if the variant or if the new variant comes around. But I'm trying to stay optimistic about it. But obviously there is cause for some concern, and I'm not too worried about it.
York Council have stated that they have a surge testing plan in place if needed, and health experts say that there isn't a cause for concern yet. In the light of the Indian variant, Public Health England are reiterating their safety message of hands, face, space and fresh air, which they say is crucial to limiting the spread of both the virus and any of its new strains.
I think that everyone's been so focused on June 21st when we finally get back to, our old normality, and this Indian variant can cause quite a stir in that, so that worries me a lot, and obviously nobody really wants more deaths, nobody wants the illnesses anymore, and it is quite worrying. The Assistant Director of Public Health in York, Fiona Phillips, stated that people who had been tested positive for the Indian variant have been tracked quickly and isolated. However, some tests don't pick up on different variants, so it is important to keep to the government guidelines.
If we want to see our hospitality remaining open for summer, it appears crucial that we stick to this guidance.
It's true that the vaccination program, the COVID vaccination program, is working down the age group. So it's likely to be some time yet before the majority of students fall into that age group where they can be vaccinated. The first thing to say really is that if there are any students who are eligible to be vaccinated, that's if they fall into one of the clinical at-risk groups because they have chronic health conditions, they think they're eligible to be vaccinated and they haven't been invited yet, have a conversation with your GP practice, or if students are not sure whether they're eligible or not, they can always contact the public health team for that information.
Hello, so I am out here outside of the Nimbus Care Vaccination Centre in Aston Park, and there is a lot of people around today getting their vaccines for the coronavirus. So we have heard today that people who are supposed to get their second dose in 12 weeks' time, that now has been pushed up to 8 weeks' time. So I think that is why quite a few older citizens are here today to get their second vaccines early. We've been told by one of the administrators that there is two areas, so there is a lot of organisation into how these vaccines are being handed out. And we've been told that this Nimbus Care Centre is now opening for longer. I think it's about 13 hours a day, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so that people can get their vaccines as soon as possible, and this is because of the new Indian variant. There are about 31 cases in York right now, and although cases in York are low, it's still very important, and the government are pushing for people to get their vaccines as soon as possible. There's a train there. I'm going to try and talk to one of the administrators and see if they can tell me any more information, but I've been Olivia Wilson, and back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Olivia. Harry Gratian is one of the most well-known names at the BBC, and having stepped down from his role as presenter last October, he's had a bit more time on his hands. We've sent our reporter Olivia Lawler McDonald to catch up with Harry at his home in York.
I'm Harry Gratian. I worked for the BBC for 42 years and I left the corporation in October in the middle of COVID, so it's been a bit frustrating, but I'm getting rather busy at the moment.
What's the best opportunity do you think that being a BBC presenter has given you?
United directors have helped Manny Cousins. They've both put in a few £1,000s.
I started as a reporter and then I moved towards presenting after a year or so. And I loved the dual role, going around and doing a story and then coming back and editing it and then putting it on the programme as well. But to meet people face to face in a studio, you see their real side, and I think that's something that will always live with me as the most important part of my job.
What do you think the most memorable moment from your time as being a presenter has been?
I think the most memorable moment has got to be a non-broadcast moment, although it was broadcast in one sense. It was the day that I got my MBE. I got my MBE for services to broadcasting, which really should have said for services to broadcasting and everybody I work with, because they have been brilliant in helping me get that. But it was a moment that the family went down to Buckingham Palace. We had a great couple of nights beforehand. We sort of pushed the boat out a little bit, and then we went to the palace and I got my MBE from Prince Charles. So it was a wonderful moment, was that.
Do you think you've accomplished everything you wanted to do within the job?
I don't think I could have done any more. I've always been available at weekends. I used to work 7 days a week, then it went down to 6 days a week, and then it went to 5 days a week as the years progressed. But I really enjoyed total involvement. So if a story broke on the weekend, I was the first to ring in and say, where are you going to send me? And that was always my mantra. And that's the advice I would give to young people if they are trying to get into this business, because you need to show commitment, you need to show your ability to be able to change your appointments, and you can't turn around and say, well, my boyfriend's taking me out, or my girlfriend's taking me out. You can't do that anymore.
How do you feel about leaving the BBC after being there for so long?
My decision to leave was taken after a year's consultation. My wife had a big say in it. I mean, I was also 70. I sort of gone over my my sell-by date in many ways, but I decided that was the right time. I actually left on my birthday. In truth, I wish I'd have done it 3 years before.
What do you think is the thing you miss the least about being at the BBC?
I don't miss BBC management, their decisions. I think that some of the things that they tell us to do just to tick boxes were ridiculous. That was coming in over the last 2 or 3 years.
How do you feel about the cuts being made at the BBC at the moment?
Terrible. I don't approve of them at all. I've lost a lot of friends. I've lost, the BBC's lost some real talent, but it has to cut.
Cool. And now for the news in brief. Since 10 a.m. this morning, there's been an ongoing incident at the River Ouse in York. A police and rescue boat were sent out, but so far there are no details of the incident. Police are carrying out spot checks around York. North Yorkshire Police said that the scheme is a mix of unpredictable and highly visible deployments. Believe it or not, York's hospitality venues are suffering with lack of chefs. Since reopening, restaurants have expressed a lack of chefs, waiters and bartenders. There are now several job vacancies around the city. There is a new bar coming to York, directly opposite Spark. The Hampton by Hilton bar is welcoming customers now ahead of the hotel's official opening later this month. It is part of City of York Council's Castle Gateway redevelopment project. Now, if I asked you what MPS was, would you know? Well, you're not alone. MPS is a rare genetic disorder, and one York mom is campaigning to raise awareness. Hannah Thompson caught up with 8-year-old Danny and his mother, Sally Mitchum.
This is Danny. At an early age, he was diagnosed with mucopolysaccharidosis, more commonly known as MPS. We spoke to York mum Sally Mitchum about her journey with 8-year-old Danny.
When Danny was a baby, there was only a few slight niggles. So just a few little things that made me think that he wasn't quite right. What's going on? He did crawl and he did walk, but quite late compared to sort of like average. He's really, really good at football. People will be like, whoa, he's got a good kick on him. But then it was becoming gradually obvious that he wasn't doing quite as well as some of the other kids his age. MPS stands for mucopolysaccharidosis, which is a really long way of saying that the body is missing a particular enzyme which normally recycles all the long chain sugars. The sticky sugars build up in his joints, in his lungs and airways. I know, it's exciting, isn't it? In his heart, but in his case, because it's the worst version of MPS 2, it also builds up in his brain. Recently had to decide to stop the weekly treatments as well, because unfortunately he's built up antibodies towards the treatment. The worst thing for any parent is to hear the name of a condition and to go home and Google it and read that it's a progressive, life-limiting condition with currently no cure.
Some of you may know that the month of May was a very special month for the National MPS Society, and last week celebrated MPS Awareness Week. Hopefully, Danny's story can inspire and educate people on MPS. This has been Hannah Thompson, reporting from the Yorkie Today.
Cool. I'm now joined by Sarah Scott. So, Sarah, could you tell us a bit more about MPS? Like how many people are affected by this?
Yeah, so about 1 in 100,000 babies that are born are going to be born with a severe case of MPS. The estimated sort of number is that 1 in 25,000 people do have MPS. However, the milder forms are a lot harder to diagnose. So obviously I was with Hannah when we got to speak with Sally. She initially showed some concerns over Danny's development, especially with language, and she went to the doctors and they sort of shoved her aside and said, no, like, come back if you're still concerned in a year. So she went back in about 9 months, and that's when she eventually got the diagnosis. So it is really hard to sort of find those symptoms earlier on.
Yeah. Like what kind of treatments are available to people who have MPS?
Yeah, so there's 2 main treatments. Obviously, as Sally says, there is no cure. But the main treatment for people with milder MPS is stem cell transplant or a bone marrow transplant, which is a really unpleasant sort of procedure. The one Danny went through was their enzyme replacement therapy. Now, Sally did say that they've actually had to stop Danny on that treatment because he's produced some antibodies that kind of reject it, which is quite a common thing to happen. So sadly, they've had to take Danny off that.
Yeah. And considering MPS isn't a well-known disease, like what can people do to help and raise awareness for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, there's the MPS Society, which is the charity that provides people who are affected by MPS. They provide their families with a lot of support. They wear a lot of blue to sort of raise awareness for it. That's what we're doing today. I mean, they'll wear like wacky things like wigs just to sort of get a conversation started with people, to let people know what it is. Obviously, people are welcome to donate. They can volunteer for this charity. But even just sort of making yourself aware of what MPS is, it's a way of helping.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah.
No problem.
If you'd like to learn more about MPS or donate, please visit www.mpssociety.org.uk. Right, now time for sport. York City FC have announced 2 more pre-season friendly games for the 2021-22 season. One against Whitby Town and one against Newcastle United. York City ladies are becoming a highly promising team under the new technical director, Jill Stacey. And head coach of York City Knights, James Ford, has said there is still room for improvement after the rugby team's win against Widnes Vikings last week. Now we go to Megan Eccles with the weather.
Thanks, Jason. The weather today is looking cloudy with some sunny spells, but make sure to take your umbrella as there'll be some scattered showers. We'll see highs of 15 and it will drop to 5 degrees overnight. Tomorrow there'll be some light rain and a moderate breeze, and we'll see highs of around 12 degrees. So back to you in the studio, Jason.
Well, that's all from Yorkie News this lunchtime. Have a lovely afternoon and stay safe. Goodbye.